Good morning, everybody, and welcome. I'm Suzanne Chaffee, Director of the UCSD Retirement Resource Center. I want to welcome all of you to this very exciting event today, our own personal tour of the North Torrey Pines Living and Learning Neighborhood and the new home of Six College. We have about 60 of our 110 guests that we're expecting with us already, and I'm not yet seeing the speaker, so I will give a little bit of advance notice of things coming up, and then we'll get started. We have quite an array of programs coming up for our members. We have worked long and hard over the summer, and we have some 250 programs that we are doing in the academic year ahead. And that's just with what's been planned so far. We still have other plans that are coming together. Oh, good. I see our host is with us now. Welcome, Mathew. Before I turn it over to Mathew, I want to do a shout out, a thank you to Nancy Groves, who is past Retirement Association President and current board and program committee member. She was responsible for setting up this event today. So thank you very much, Nancy. UCSD broke ground on this project on June 18th, 2018, and in just over 2 years, this massive undertaking has come to fruition. So here to take us on a guided tour of the neighborhood is Mathew Smith, Program Manager, UCSD Capital Program. Capital Planning is responsible for space program development and funding analysis, and it works closely with the UC Office of the President to obtain project approvals. Mathew, it's all yours.
Thanks so much, Susan. As we get started, I'm sorry, I'm going to have to wear a mask during this tour. I'm wondering if can I get a thumbs up for everyone that they can hear me?
Yes, we can hear you.
That's great. That's great. Now I see a couple of faces that I recognize that were honestly critical to the success of this project. I see Kathy Presmick on here. I see Dr. Gabrielle Weinhausen on here. I'm excited to show you guys this project because of all your hard work. And so I'm starting. I also have with me a gentleman by the name of Brian Chen, if you could wave. So Brian is with the design builder for the project. He's a project engineer. And Brian is also a Sixer. He's a graduate of UCSD. And he's been working with Clark Construction for the balance of this project. He's going to be my keys so that I can sort of stay engaged as we walk. But Brian's been critical in getting the project turned over. Clark Construction, HKS, and Safdie Rabinez form the design build crew for this project. I think you've gotten a high level overview. I'm gonna assume that most everyone on this call has a general sense of the project, but I'm gonna fly to high level. North Torrey Pines Living and Learning Neighborhood is essentially a new home for Six College. So we built the college all at once. It's 1.6 million gross square feet. So it's sizable, and it's about as dense and as urban as a project as we've done on campus. That being said, it's not the first time that we've built a college all at once. Kathy can speak to that. But this is the first in this living and learning concept that is really sort of critical in catalyzing the physical transformation. When the chancellor and our leadership talks about the cultural, intellectual, and physical transformation, this concept of a living and learning neighborhood is something that was critical to the conception of this project. So I'm standing now. I'm gonna rotate you a little bit. I'm standing now. I'm looking back at University Extension. So you guys, I'm going to try to orient you here. And now I'm going to turn and I'm going to show you sort of the breadth of the project. We're standing at Muir College Drive in North Torrey Pines is the intersection I'm pointing to there. And then I'm now looking at the new Scholars Drive, which bifurcates our project. I'm going to turn and I'm going to look back at Marshall here. That's the existing Scholars Drive. And I'm going to turn and look up now the promenade. So, Brian, you ready? So as I walk us through, I'm gonna start with sort of an external tour of the site, right? So critical to this, you know, what makes this a neighborhood, right? And it's the public realm. You'll hear the Chancellor and also the Vice Chancellor and CFO, Pierre Ouillet, talk about how important the public realm is to the campus in general, and that's why it was sort of critical for us to develop the public realm in this project, right? So the architecture here on campus is sometimes a little bit disparate. It's sometimes a little bit a sign of the times, but the landscape and the public realm forms the sinew really that binds the campus together. So so I'm gonna pause here. So where are we in construction? So we started construction in June of 2018. And we have just hit the milestone of turning over buildings 3 and 4. I'm gonna turn back. That in the background is building 3, also known as Kaleidoscope, as named by Six College. So we've turned over for occupancy building 3, which is all residential and residential life. I'm gonna take us across here. We've turned over the housing tower in building 2, which is the Catalyst building. I'm gonna turn back and sort of see that there. And we've turned over building 4, which we'll get to in a moment. I mean, the goal really as the plan for delivering the project was we would deliver the entirety of this neighborhood for fall 2020. Alas, COVID hit and we had to grind a little bit to a halt, but we were able to push forward to be able to deliver the housing for the Return to Learn program. As I'm looking here and in the background, you can see the Social Sciences building. So if you talk to Dean Padden, it's the Public Engagement building. And that building is along Ridgewalk. I'm walking by construction here, I apologize. That building is on Ridgewalk, and if you sort of can imagine where we are, we're right across from the SSRB building, the old chemistry building, and it forms sort of the anchor of the social sciences corridor going
Matthew,
down.
can you give us a north, south, east, and west orientation?
Absolutely. I'm going to walk right in the middle of the street and do that. So there is an entrance there as I get back out into the open to the parking structure. One other feature that we have is there's 1,200 stalls of parking underneath the east quad of the project. Okay, so I'm gonna walk back out here to the middle of the intersection of Scholars Drive. So I'm looking up Marshall there. You can see the bridge for OVT. So I'm looking north now, okay? Looking north to Marshall. I'm looking west now. I'm pointing at North Torrey Pines Road and the entrance into Black Horse Farms. I'm pointing now east as I stand here. If you're familiar with, you know, if you can sort of imagine a map of campus, I'm pointing through my finger. The axis will drive directly across campus through the center of Geisel Library, and then we'll continue to carry east along Warren Mall. Okay, there's this strong sort of east-west axis that I'm pointing down here, and now I'm pointing south to, in the background there is Historic New York College.
Thank you, that was helpful.
Of course. All right, so I'm gonna start walking down the street here. I'm walking south. So this building here is the Six College Administration building. So I believe we have a former Six College provost with us. The current provost, Lakshmi, was going to join us on this tour, but she's getting ready for students to return and sends her best. This space will take on, they're currently in Pepper Canyon Hall, excuse me. And so all of Six College administration will move into this space here, right? To the west, as I'm standing and walking down the ground plane, I'm looking at residential life. So the Res Life offices are right here across the street. And this is where the residential deans are, I think by title now they're directors. And there is Res Life spaces there in that building as well. So I'm coming to the heart. I see another couple of architects walking around. Coming to the heart of really the project. The idea is this is sort of the new Main Street for Sixth College. And from an urban design standpoint, we've built we've designed and built and what we refer to as a complete street. You can see that we've separated bikes and pedestrians. We have, I'm gonna not get hit by a car here. We have two bus stops, one on either side. But I'm gonna jump back. So the separating bikes and peds is something that was critical in this solution because micromobility on campus, I don't know if you guys have experienced it in the past year, but I definitely have, is something that we needed to and need to improve. That is bicycles and pedestrians that are looking at their phones and the mini mopeds all sort of converging on the same path. And so, we've done well, and we thought it was important on our project to make sure that we separate those lanes based on their pace. So I think there was a question out there about, are any of the buildings occupied? So yes, so from here I can show you. So the residential tower, not Sixth College administration, but the residential tower has just received certificate of occupancy. I'm now looking at the Tapestry building, what in construction we called building 3. This is all residential life and all housing, all residential. This building as well is now received certificate of occupancy. That doesn't mean it's not occupied yet. Students have not yet moved in. There are a couple residential advisors that have, but it's not, the student move-in is not, the bulk of student move-in doesn't start until the 19th of September, okay?
Mathew,
but it is,
one of our members asked if there will be any staff or professor housing, but I'm pretty sure you're gonna say no.
well, there is professional staff housing, but it's specific to the college. There's not housing in this project that is earmarked at this time, that's earmarked for faculty, visiting lecturers, visiting faculty. I believe, although it's not my project, the project that's going before the Regents today, the project formerly known as Future College, now known as the Theater District Living and Learning Neighborhood, that project, I believe, has space for visiting faculty. At least at one time, its program did, but we in North Torrey Pines do not.
Thank you.
So I'm gonna keep spinning here. This is building 4. This building is also, does have certificate of occupancy, but is not occupied yet. And it also has along its ground plane, similar to Res Life over here, offices and spaces, conference room spaces, shared study spaces, digital playrooms, spaces for students, and then also the ancillary mail room and Amazon lockers and that sort of thing are also in that building. So as I continue to spin, I'm looking south now towards Muir. In the foreground here is building 5. This building, the Mosaic Building. If this project is a living and learning neighborhood, I would say the Mosaic Building is our living and learning building. This project has housing. It's all apartments, so it's all for most likely sophomores and above. There is a market here at the ground plane. There is dining. There is a dining terrace as well. So there's dining facilities, 3 HDH offered dining facilities. And then there's a dining terrace. There are spaces for hospitality. So if you imagine going to the 15th floor North Campus housing, that's a space that you could get for meetings through university hospitality. They have some classrooms in there as well, and some spaces in there. Also, there are general assignment classrooms. So in this building, and Dr. Weinhausen can attest to some of these discussions, there are two 250-seat lecture halls that are in this building. And, you know, honestly, we can walk through here, right? I'm gonna walk up. And these lecture halls are of sufficient scale, but are of specific design to accommodate film and history study. And so that was a program that was missing on campus, or a space type that was missing on campus. We work closely with VisArts and Arts and Humanities to reconcile that and get, so they are back to back, these spaces are. And they're both designed for film study. One will be outfitted with the equipment for film study. And the other will be sort of seen as the empty seat. So they'll never, you know, in 10 years from now, as technology evolves and we need to renovate, there'll be an empty seat that can be renovated to accommodate the space. So once that program gets up and running, it'll keep running. So again, building 5, the lecture halls are here. And this also, as I look up on the terrace, this is where the craft center is going. So as many of you remember the Craft Center of Muir College, we're bringing the Craft Center back, Craft Center 2.0. There are some, we just brought on, I say we, but Housing, Dining, Hospitality has brought on the new director, Annika Nelson, who joined about 3 months ago, who's really sinking her teeth into this space and helping to bring it to life.
Matthew, if I could jump
sure.
in right there. We have Annika presenting a special presentation on the 25th of September. So all of you be sure to sign up for that. Please
do. That she is just so much energy and so much vision for that space. What an asset to find her. So yeah, I actually, Susan, if I can get invited to that, I'd love to come. And so I'm gonna, all of this space here, this quad, so underneath us is parking. This will all be a grass field in this quad here in the foreground. In the background, so I'm gonna point, there's a 600-seat lecture hall. I think if any of you have seen the renderings of North Torrey Pines Living and Learning Neighborhood, there's an evening shot that we call the quote unquote money shot that has this 600-seat lecture hall in the foreground and the project in the back. It's and then as I'm pointing at the ground level here, and I'm not sure if you've heard, but there's an Alexis Smith assemblage artwork that was the piece that inspired the snake path over by Geisel. And so she has agreed to donate that work to us to be in this space. And this is a 20-foot by 60-foot work, truly amazing. And it will be here at the ground floor and sort of lit up and glowing through the glass of this 600-seat lecture hall. It's going to be really stunning. So I'm going to turn to the east. This is the Arts and Humanities building. So from the top, so this level here, and then the terrace, this is the dean's level. Just below that will be the Institute of Arts and Humanities. And as you work your way down the building, you find the departments of philosophy, literature, and history. Although, so it's under construction, I don't have my PPE on. There in this space here, it's open to the sky, and there is an outdoor classroom, which at the time during design we thought it would be cool, but we're not sure if people would use it. But in the time of COVID, it will absolutely be fought over for sure. And so as we look, I'm going to look back up. So there's a shared terrace here. And then there's sort of an architectural sinew. It's program space, but it's conference room that has views to the east and back to the west. And then this I'm now pointing to the Public Engagement Building, which is the Social Sciences Building. So this is the Dean's level and Dean's Terrace. I talked a little bit about it at the beginning of this discussion. And then below that, there's Ed Studies. And then in the foreground here, there's a portion of the building that is USP, so Urban Studies and Planning. So at the beginning of this project during the design phase, USP was not yet a department. USP is now a department, yay, and that will be their space.
Matthew,
So,
I was wondering, and one of my members also asked the question, we saw an awful lot of stairs there. What about access for mobility challenged?
Absolutely. I'll tell you, so from a wellness standpoint, the design is intentional about bringing to the forefront the stairs, the opportunity to have a pedestrian path through. Also, all of this space, both at the ground level, within the lobbies, is fully accessible and beyond code. Ramps for wheelchairs, but also accessible accommodations requisite to make sure that everyone can have a comfortable path through the building. So as I point through here, I'm kind of jumping on either side of the fence here. So I'm going to introduce you to one of the heroes on site. This is Daniel Moreno, one of the superintendents. He's been extraordinary in service to the campus. So there's a sort of a shared lobby here. This goes right out to Ridgewalk. So there's no point where campus is where this project is inaccessible to campus. And Ridgewalk is at level to this space that enters into the two lobbies for arts and humanities and social sciences. Same deal with general assignment classrooms, same deal with the buildings. Did that answer the question well enough?
What about that large okay, step area coming up from below that you walked up?
Oh, this here?
Yeah.
Oh, absolutely. There, this sort of grand stair right under and beside it is an elevator that can be used as well.
Got it.
Very
Perfect.
visible,
so
very accessible. Yeah, of course. So I'm gonna take a moment to talk. Now that I'm here, I'm gonna take a moment to talk a little bit about a couple of the design tenets of the project. So essentially, to build urban, right? That was at the onset of this project. That was one of the let's say concerns with campus when we're talking about socializing the project to campus is you've got 10.5 acres, 10.8 acres. You need to maintain, we want to maintain the public realm that's requisite for contemplative space, that's requisite for us to feel connected with nature. We're gonna be outside, we're San Diegans, right? But the program that we're looking to build in this project is essentially dense. It's essentially more urban than, especially for those of you who are familiar with the current Six College home, which is Camp Snoopy area and Pepper Canyon Hall, right? Much more vertical. And the design solution, nowadays we call it mixed use, right? We are bringing together programs that are usually somewhat disparate on campus. And sometimes they're in the same building. And I'm talking about Building 5 as being a living and learning building. We've got dining, we've got housing, we've got market, we've got craft center, we've got general assignment classrooms, right? But also tremendously important, and it was also a tremendous investment from the EVC's office and Chancellor's office to make sure it's not pretty just yet. It will eventually be as pretty as this. But we pressed parking down. We pressed it below the below grade. It's subterranean to make sure that we have open space. But again, that's not the extent of the solution. That's not the balance of what it is that we have to do. And so, in urban solutions, you can't just think of the ground plane as being the limit to connecting with nature and connecting with the outdoors. And so on this project, there's the ground plane. It's a very public and shared and activated ground plane. But you can see, you can sort of trace a mid-plane through the buildings, sort of plinth of terraces. And we'll walk to some of these terraces, right? So this is a terrace up here. This is a terrace, right? Where we extended, the design team extended the ground plane up into the buildings, right? So that there are semi-public but semi-private spaces, right? That also have trees and vegetation, and also allow for that sort of open space, engaging the outdoors. We're in San Diego, but also, you know, with trees, right? And so two things to say about that. One, this is absolutely derived, this design concept is absolutely derived from visioning that we had with both Sixth College, Arts, Humanities, Social Sciences, and HDH, but also it contributes to the ultimate sustainability of the project, right? So we're required, in the UC system, we're required to build to the LEED standard, leadership and energy and environmental design standard, which is basically, it's one of the most known metrics of measuring sustainability within architecture, right? But this project is LEED Platinum, right? So sustainability, to be sustainable, you don't have to be LEED necessarily, but LEED gave us a scorecard, right? And so, you know, for Americans, that's great. Now that we've got a score, now we'll do it, right? And this project exceeds the minimum sustainable standards required for capital improvement in the system by being LEED Platinum. So we are the highest level, the highest grade of LEED sustainability, U.S. Green Building Council driven measure of sustainability that you can be. And so, and that's not just from the faculty and the staff, but the students. You know, honestly, in most every discussion that we had about this project, the students, one of their first questions is, you know, what are our green standards? What are our green policies? How are we going to be sustainable? And it was really interesting, and a real tribute to the university, and then also Housing, Dining, Hospitality, to make sure that we made the extra investment to ensure that what we built is in alignment with faculty, staff, and students that are gonna be here. So we're gonna kind of walking through. Are there any questions on that? Sustainability sometimes causes a pause. So I'll keep going then.
Is there any solar installed on any of the rooftops?
Absolutely, there is. There's photovoltaic enough to make sure that the parking structure is net zero, for example. And this mid-plane plinth, another sustainable solution that we have. This plinth that we talked about that's planted on the different buildings, there's a condensate capture system that's tied into the HVAC system. So air handlers produce clean water, and we're capturing that clean water and we're using that to water the plants that are on site, which is also super cool.
And are there any gardens going to be installed on rooftop terraces?
I planted that question. I totally planted that question. That's nice. The next place where we're going to go. Brian is going to walk us through. You're going to have a moment. I'm agile and I'm somewhat in shape, but we're going to take an elevator here for a second, so that we can go up to this mid-plane plinth. And I'll show you some of these planted roof gardens. As we transition here, I want to show you one more thing, just in case. So this project was a collaboration. I mean, it was a true collaboration. It was very, I'd like to say that it was very engaging and inclusive in the process. And so we also worked with Triton Athletics and Sixth College and Student Affairs to make sure that we had rec spaces, and then we wanted to celebrate it with the UC brand. This is there's an existing basketball court in Six College now, and they definitely wanted to bring that forward. All right, I'm gonna keep walking here. So if I transition back towards the design team's response to the requirements of the project, you know, how do we do this? So the project delivery method was a design build stipulated sum competition, right? So what does that mean? That means that we put together a series of documents that became a request for proposal. And in these series of documents, we worked very closely with our stakeholders to develop both the quantitative, but also the qualitative information sort of requisite to communicate piece of that document was a detailed project program, right? So we spent about a year working with, like I said, the stakeholders. We started with visioning. We transitioned, and thank you, Brian. So we're going into building 3. So I'm going to issue the disclaimer of we're getting in an elevator, and if for some reason we get disconnected, I will call you right back. Okay. All right, now you can see me. So we spent about a year or so with university stakeholders to basically put our hands around and critical to the success of this project, let's spin us back around, was the qualitative information. You can't build a neighborhood without describing the neighborhood, without talking about the qualities of that neighborhood, without talking about the want to have serendipitous interaction. Thanks, Brian. Without putting that in writing, right? And because that document, we're walking down the hallway. This is a digital playroom. It's a digital production studio, super cool. It's a student space. So that document it went together with the contracts and the like, and we basically pre-qualified a series of teams. Got down to 3, and then we issued that document, this detailed project program that described both the quantitative and qualitative aspects of the project. And 3 teams went into competition to try to earn this project, right? To earn this mission. All right, now we're walking out onto level 7 of building 3. This is that shared terrace. Super cool, right? For students. Can you imagine being a student here right now?
Very neat.
Being able to walk out and you know, get some mint, you know, meet your friends.
So those are vegetable and herb gardens?
That's right. Yeah, and there are a couple of RAs that have already moved in, and you can see they're starting to take ownership of the space. It makes me so excited. It makes me so happy to see. So this is that mid-plane. I'm going to walk us over and show us. So what?
Is the entire project, Mathew,
go ahead.
net zero
energy?
Is the entire project net zero?
It's not. We are LEED Platinum, but we are not net zero across the board.
Okay.
We're designed to meet WELL standard, but we are not net zero. Not there yet. Okay, so I'm going to walk here. It's cool to see this sort of contrast with historic Muir College. I'll see if I can get us a better view. One of the things we wanted to make sure of was context. You know, we knew that we were going to be vertical. We knew that we were going to be urban, but we didn't want to just come in and completely be asymmetrical with Muir, so that what we did just didn't make any dang sense. So here we are. I'm now looking down on the green space. I'll admit I'm not great with heights, so I'm holding on tight to the bar. And so If you're not great with heights either, look away. So I'm looking out to the west. The haze from the fires and the like, and sometimes the marine layer. If you look there, I mean, this is the line of the horizon in the ocean. I'll get you a better view of that as well. So so this document that I'm talking about, this detailed project program that the teams competed on, described what we think a neighborhood needs to be for us, right? That described what transformation looked like for us. It described the difference between a classroom and an active learning space. It talked about pedagogy. It spoke a language that we felt that the right team could respond to. So, simple study room. And they went into competition for about 10 weeks. And the team that emerged, HKS and Software Venus with Clark as the contractor, they responded essentially item by item to what it is that we were talking about. And they brought to bear an evidence-based design approach is the best way to describe it, where they started with persona mapping of individual students, faculty, staff, how they would work their way through the buildings, how they work their way through the campus. And they extracted really, so where are we gonna go, Brian, 5? Yeah, okay. And they extracted something that we said in our document without being able to put it into words. And that is something from the visioning from Six College, where Six College, I'm gonna switch back to me. Essentially, in the beginning, Six College wasn't all that excited about leaving Pepper Canyon. They loved their home, still do, right? And the essence of Six College, really somewhat rural type of space. But in the words, in the language of the visioning, the Sixers and faculty and staff would describe the sort of transition from being at the university scale, and then at the scale of the college, and then at the scale of your quad in the space, then at the scale of your series of buildings, and then in your building, and then in your shared space amongst suites, and then in your suite, and then in your bedroom. And the language of that, the design team dubbed as a nesting scale solution. So the design is really intent on delivering, even though it's more urban and vertical, a building, a college, a neighborhood that is really legible in nesting scales. And so as I walk through this space, we talk about the activated ground plane. We talked about the semi-activated, semi-private mid-plane. And I'm walking through a space here that is, as you get off the elevator in your building, which is the Kaleidoscope Building, and you come into a shared student space, which is something that's, it's shared, but it's within your building, it's within your floor. I'm gonna walk us, Brian, we're gonna go this way, okay. So then we work our way down from the floor, the shared space at the elevator, which is at the floor. And then we work our way, you can sort of see down the hallway, you can see that this sort of inviting seating area for students. There's a little seating area here for students, places to meet, but places that are yours as students. This is right outside of your space. And then we're gonna go into a suite here. And this is a shared suite with students. This will be freshmen, right? So this is a suite, it's not an apartment. The building's composed of suites and apartments. Suites are for freshmen primarily, and apartments are for more upperclassmen. But the real difference is that apartments have kitchens and the suites don't. The suites use the shared kitchens that are on the floor for their ability to meet and eat and make food together. But another sort of unique feature is within the suites, we built these residential stairs because we felt like that the residential stair is a moment that we all experience, or we have experienced, and it was something that was described by Sixers in their current space. The residential stair is where you meet people, where you see people, where you engage, and these spaces these suites become shared. This is, you have your space that that you share with your roommate. We're going to walk into a space here. You got openable windows, got great views, even at the lower floors, you got great views looking out on the grass and out on the green. And then you come out and you've got this sort of shared suite, and then but your suite is also shared upstairs, right? And that is sort of a moment of design feature, allows Sixth College to be able to house what are called living and learning communities. So they are groups that have come together based on everything from culture to curriculum to interest, and these groups can be up to 36, up to 50, and so a single suite that's connected in that way can it's a quote unquote house style model, can house these living and learning communities. Okay. So as you can see or hear, I can ramble on and on and on about this project all day long. We're gonna get on the elevator, we're gonna go upstairs. Are there any questions at this moment?
Yes, one of the questions that was raised, Matthew, was in regards to the height of the barriers on those terraces, concerns that if and when a student becomes inebriated, are they too risky? Are they too low?
They're design project when it comes to dealing with what you're also probably describing the students' concern, is we sat with the CAPS office, the psych office, and we talked with them about architecture can't solve all problems, but architecture can facilitate an operational solution, right? And so what is it that they face that we in the design of the architecture can do to help augment their operational solution, right? The feeling of isolation is something that was one of the first issues that was brought to bear. And so any space that is out onto a terrace is fully glassed. So there's never a moment where someone can isolate themselves out on the terrace without it being visible from the interior. Also, as an extra layer of protection, we can lock those doors. We can turn those terraces into very lovely window washing platforms. If for whatever reason we, the university, decide that we do want to have and celebrate uses, but for whatever reason we decide that we're uncomfortable with it, we can lock those doors and remove the furniture.
Does the project have security systems or PA systems?
Yes, and yes. We have some of that. Turn back around here. So here's another nice view, looking down over Black Horse Farms, looking north, looking out over Torrey Pines. Yeah, I'm gonna step back here. So yes, we have cameras in the public areas for security. Yes, we have PA announcement as well. Can we get into the, yes, the answer to those questions are yes.
Okay.
And then I'm gonna show you, so this, as we got off the elevator, sorry to go fast here, off the elevator, we transitioned into a shared space that also has a kitchen. And this kitchen has mobility features where the systems are all operable from a wheelchair height, and provides the requisite accessible accommodation.
Right.
I'm going to show a couple more things while we're in here. Thanks, Brian. I'll be there in a sec. Fully, this is a WAP. This is a wireless access point. So this project, unlike its predecessors, inside and out, soup to nuts, top to bottom, is fully awash with wireless, with Wi-Fi. Wireless is the direction of now, for sure. We're hoping that it's good enough, right? But we definitely throughout the project, even in the parking structure, if you can believe it, have wireless. So now we've stepped up into on the 13th floor, or 14th floor, excuse me, of the building 3. This is a conference room that is operated by hospitality, so similar to the 15th floor of North Campus housing. And this conference room has a terrace. I'm gonna get us out here. No, I need to go through the other door. Terrace as well. It's one of the design amenities we talk a little bit about having the planters on the roof. And again, you know, it's interesting living in San Diego. When the weather's not perfect, I find myself apologizing. So I'm sorry the weather's not perfect. But I'm going to give us a look at and through the project here. Sweeping view. In the background there, you can see the Arts and Humanities building. Building 5, which is Housing Craft Center. This is Building 4, which is also housing. You can see, I'm going to point touch it. There's a conference room just like this one at Building 4. I'm squeezing it right now. That has similar views, but obviously can look, is more easterly facing, and can see down to the city on a clear day. And then I'm going to walk us over here. So in the background there, you can see La Jolla Cove, the ocean line. And then I'm going to walk over to the glider port. I guess in general, to show that these students are going to have a nice space. They may never have these views again, but it makes for an exciting project for sure.
Matthew, are there any exterior stairs or only interior stairs? And if it's only the interior stairs, is there any concern about the ease of spread of infection since there's so much connectivity between the spaces?
There's a stairwell that's always open, by the way. It's interesting question, right? So right now, as we transition into a return to learn program, we are faced with the campus being very controlled of and over policy, space, signage, operation. And so the design of this space is sort of intended as a living lab, is the way they looked at it. There's even a research endeavor, you know, we're a research institution. And so this project, hey, Brian, if you want to get back to it, I think I'm good from here. You guys want to say bye to Brian?
Bye, Brian.
Bye, Brian. And there's even a research endeavor that was included in the project HKS is doing, where essentially we were very deliberate and intentional in our planning process and our design process and what we needed and the type of spaces that we needed. And when you talk about nesting scales, when you talk about having done persona mapping, we put ourselves in a position where you had a pretty solid understanding of, the other one here, pretty solid understanding of the design and what we needed. And a design that promotes social engagement is what we went for. And so, but as a result, we found ourselves distributing amenity and being very equitable about how we distributed amenity. We distributed spaces, and there wasn't the amenity that we sort of talk about, the places where students come together. There are a lot of them. And so when we first were asked to take a look at, and we have been asked to take a look at a response to COVID, we essentially said that this design and this concept is perfect for this. We designed for, I think that, you know, the word of the summer has been flexibility and grace, right? But also resilience. So we designed for resilience. And if you take what it is that we hope to do to promote interaction, and you deconstruct that, we find the nodes throughout the project, through this persona mapping, where people come together. And instead of promoting interaction in those spaces, we had a map of where this interaction would happen so that we could provide signage and we could provide operational solutions that could help prevent the interaction, right? And also the space, because of its distributed amenity, you can parcel out the space in isolation if you need to, which is also a benefit. And so with that understanding, they're able to sort of break the circuits. We call them sort of circuit breakers, where if there is an opportunity for transmission, either operationally, through isolation, through signage, through putting hand wash stations, which we're doing, we can remind and we can inform everyone. So to try to promote the vigilance that's requisite to respond to COVID. So can architecture solve all the solutions, provide all of our solutions? Nope, absolutely not. And I'm an architect and I would like to say yes. But this project, our understanding of our project, because of its intentionality, did afford the university, both Six College, ATH, the opportunity to have an understanding of the space so that they could overlay their operational solution, and hopefully, knock on wood, hopefully we're more successful than some of our counterparts even in this region.
Mathew, thank you. I know that that UCSD is doing significant effluent testing. How granular will that effluent testing be? Will you be able? How narrowly will you be able to determine it's right here that there's a problem?
So that's a awesome question. It's an awesome question. It's above my pay grade as to the solution. The question was asked of me, and we provided 3 testing points within the project that would be able to isolate or identify. Really, there's one point on this project that from this one point, we can identify whether or not the effluent test is coming from an infected individual within this project in this neighborhood. Will that testing happen at that granularity? I don't know. I know that every day I get an announcement that shows a way that the university is improving its response. And so I wouldn't be surprised if we're getting there. I just haven't seen it yet. There is a GIS understanding. There's an understanding of our utility system. And it's tough to say 1960s is old, but this is an old campus. There are a lot of pipes, but there is an understanding of our sewage system that is granular enough to where we could do tracing. Right now, though, one of the announcements that I recently saw was testing that was done at Ravel that identified that there was an individual within Ravel that was potentially positive, and from that they quickly identified the individual. And so if they're effective with the level of testing that they're doing right now, I can only imagine, again, it's above my pay grade, I can only imagine that they won't try to get more granular with the overall testing if what they're doing right now plus the steady churn of individual testing. I mean, I get tested every 2 weeks. I've got the red badge with the E on it, essential services. And I take a symptom screen every single day. If there's any hint of any symptom, I am not allowed to come to campus. And I get tested every 2 weeks. And there you go. So will it get more granular? The short answer, sorry for the long answer, probably yes. We'll probably get more granular.
Okay, switching gears a little bit, one of our members asked if there will be any spiritual or religious space in this new development.
Yeah, I mean, yes, definitely. One of the spaces that we are about ready to transition is a space, a Kumiya Garden space. You know, I'm not going to go through the spectrum of different cultures and religions that, but I can speak to one space that I can off the top of my head say there's a Kumiya Garden that was put into place that we're going to augment as part of this project. It's exterior collaboration, also with Sixth College and Thurgood Marshall College, which has been pretty cool, and then also with EDI, and that's an example of a spiritual space. To some, you know, to me, there's, you know, if you have spaces where you can commune with nature, that's definitely spiritual, and we definitely provided that as well. And I'm happy to sort of walk through some of those type of spaces as well. We didn't build a chapel. We did build space to allow for prayer, for a traditional halal meal. This is what I'm coming up off the top of my head. But the answer is yes, but there is not a singular chapel space that I'm thinking of.
Great. Questions were raised that sort of come together. Is there a map online of this whole development? Are all buildings named yet? And are shuttle stops running to this area?
Okay, so there's a video of the project. The map that we have on is called, I think it's called Campus Bird. I'm looking a little bit at Kathy Presmick. She's out there in the ether, I think. We still have Campus Bird. So there is a campus map, and we are updating that map to include the building information model for this project, but it's more building based. So there's not yet online that I know of a map of the individual buildings that would include floor plans. The second question is, do we have, or the third question, can you repeat the questions? I'm sorry. Sorry, Susan.
So shuttle stops and building names.
Not yet.
Have all the buildings been named? Not
yet on both of those. So shuttle stops are the end of this month. I think it's the 28th or 29th, 30 days, so September, April, June, and November. 30 days. So the 28th or 29th is the day before the last day of the month for shuttle stops. Right now, student move-in will happen, and so the shuttles they will be operational, but they're not going to come to their standard shuttle stop just yet, because for this project, because that space is being used for move-in. So shuttle stops by the end of the month. And then names, yes, there was a process that Sixth College had to name those buildings that are primarily residential or HDH. So there are 4 buildings that have been named. The Arts and Humanities and Social Sciences buildings have not been named yet. The General Assignment Lecture Hall has not been named yet. The 4 buildings that parking structure hasn't, and the 4 buildings that have are Tapestry, Kaleidoscope, Mosaic, and Catalyst. And these are named by Sixth College. Wonderful. Will there be a new name for Sixth College in the future? And will that mean that these names may change? Maybe. That's how it's happened historically, but I don't know yet.
And when do you expect Six College administration to make the move to the new campus?
So the balance of the project will be delivered December 4th, 2020. That's our plan. We had to course correct due to sort of labor inefficiencies and the like that came from COVID. So everything else will be turned. We were 2 phases. 3A is now, we have occupancy. Phase 3B is 12-4.
Is the parking structure open?
Well, 42 stalls of the parking structure are open now, including accessible stalls. We needed to and wanted to make sure that there's accessible stalls that were turned over with occupancy. Even though freshmen and sophomores don't have cars, the answer is yes, 42 stalls, and that includes accessible parking.
By December?
No, now. Oh, the balance will be by December, yes.
Yeah.
The balance will be by December.
Okay. And one of our members asked what the total cost of this project is.
Our approvals are $628 million. Wow. And so that includes even interest during construction. So you take out a loan, you accrue interest. And so our overall budget and our approvals includes those accruals. And so our overall approvals are $628 million.
Wow. Okay. I think I've asked all the questions that have come through via the chat. If anyone else has a question, please raise your hand and we'll be on the lookout for your raised electronic hand.
I think I saw a question of total number of students. There are 2,000 student beds, and then 40 RA beds, and then 8 pro staff beds. So there's 2,048 beds. The idea of that is the hope to house that each college will be plus or minus 4,000 students, and we can house half of the college here on campus. So I think that's the number that you'll also see with the Theater District Living and Learning Neighborhood, 2,000 beds.
Great. We have a question from Ron Campnell. Ron, go ahead.
Yes, so next door to 6th is extension. What are the plans for, I assume it's probably going to be high-rise dorms, but what are the plans, and will construction interfere with 6th once it gets going?
Will it interfere with 6th, or will it interfere with extension?
No, will it interfere with 6th? You know, you're going to have a
Yeah.
new construction zone at some point adjacent.
Yeah, whenever there's construction on campus, there is a ripple effect that as you go concentrically out from construction, it's definitely felt. But the goal is, our goal at CPM is to make sure that we can keep the university operations going throughout. The plans for university extension are a little bit in flux. The new home for extension was going to be Triton Pavilion, which was a capital improvement that was the construction was to have started this summer. So as to deliver it in, I think, 2022 or 2023. And that would be the new home for the dean and for extension. And that at that point, the current site of extension would be, I'm gonna say open for redevelopment, but considered for redevelopment, and housing is what's in the current neighborhood planning study. I don't know what Mary's plan is now due to Triton Pavilion being put on hold. And I don't know how long Triton Pavilion will be put on hold, but until there's a new home for extension, the consideration for the redevelopment of that site will have to wait.
Okay.
We know a little bit about that, Matt, because that new building was supposed to go right on top of our old building we currently inhabit. All right, our next question is from Faye Gersh. Faye, go ahead.
Just wonder, it doesn't feel like much of a town gown situation. we come very often to the campus, or we used to anyway, and there doesn't seem to be any public space where real people are mixing with students. Is that not, I mean, there's no like Harvard Square anywhere. What do you think about that?
Well, you know, it's interesting. It's tough to look at a space that's not occupied yet, and start to visualize. But the space is designed in its quads to promote that serendipitous interaction. The craft center as well is an example of a program that, you know, with parking and with access to the community and to students and to faculty and staff, is a place that we hope that brings the community in. And there's also, I haven't talked much about it, but up along Ridgewalk, we're developing Ridgewalk. Ridgewalk in general, the spine of Ridgewalk is being developed throughout campus. And in our little portion of Ridgewalk, there's retail being brought to bear. And this is real estate retail. It's not a real estate office retail, which is not HDH. And those dining spaces and then the outdoor spaces associated are examples of program spaces where we hope that sort of serendipitous, you don't see nightlife, but that serendipitous interaction can start to happen, so that we're not losing individuals off campus. We're starting to spread out by giving people, faculty, staff, community places to visit. Then this becomes more of a destination. It may not feel that way from my tour, and I apologize, but it is part of the plan. And then also in the summers, there's a concierge type service. It's called hospitality information. And the idea that there's a neighborhood council that this concierge helps to promote the sharing of spaces. So you can imagine like a film festival where the general assignment classrooms are actually used to host a film festival, or guest lecturers, where we've already talked about surfboard shaping as an example of a class that's happening in the craft center that we feel like is going to be a big draw. Right adjacent to there is a 600-seat lecture hall. And then, this was pre-COVID, but the idea of hosting a lecture on, at the #1 surfing school in the nation, hosting a lecture on surfing or about surfboard shaping. These are the sort of things that hopefully
we old folks like to know about.
Absolutely. But these aggregate to create a destination that for everyone. That's the goal. And then you add the trolley into the mix, and we become open to the community.
Perfect. Next up is Fran Shepard. Go ahead, Fran.
Yes, hi, Marcy, and I need to watch this whole video again. Is there a website that we can pull up?
We will be sending it out to everyone. I am recording it.
Thank you.
Was that your whole question? Okay.
Yes, thank you.
So now that I have a chance, I'm going to issue my big broad disclaimer. I'm just a lowly program manager working for the university, speaking as intelligently as I possibly can about this project. None of what I've said was vetted by my vice chancellor prior to this transmission. And so don't hold me against any of my facts. They're the best I could come up with in real time. How's that for a disclaimer?
Fabulous. We have another question from Charles Kaminsky.
Chuck.
Hey, Matt, great project. It's a huge beast, my God. Congratulations. I know that you mentioned community, and I know that when this project was first proposed, there was some controversy with adjacent Black Horse Farms and others. And I believe a similar controversy is underway with the theater proposed project. I know that's not facilities design and construction or project management responsibility, but do you know how the university has addressed the community in relation to that controversy? Thank you.
Of course. No, first, Chuck, thanks for joining. It's an honor. Chuck
You know,
was and is a Zen master on this campus and helped to build some of the great projects. And I learned a lot from him, even though that I only had a chance to work with him for a few months. And for you, Chuck, here you go. I wore my old facilities design and construction shirt. I thought either you or Boone may see it. So to answer your question, you know, for us in our project, we worked very closely with Black Horse Farms, and we still do, to try to mitigate the impacts of our project on their quality of life. And that relationship, I think, is, from what I'm hearing, although Future College or Theater District, Living and Learning Neighborhoods, not my project, that has been carried forward. The concerns of La Jolla, the farms of Black Horse on the densification of North Torrey Pines, and the transformation of the campus before their eyes. And so I can speak a little bit to how, you know, we worked with Black Horse. There were some design tenets that we latched onto early on in the process through communication. Also campus planning and Anu and Robert Clausen, Todd Pittman, Kathy in her time here were instrumental in that successful dialogue there. But an example of a design feature is the berm. We maintain the berm instead of building out. So the berm is on the westernmost portion of this project. It's the space, a planted space, and it's a bit of a hump that separates North Torrey Pines from the university. And so instead of taking the loop road out to the edge, similar to Muir, we maintain the berm in that separation. And we augmented it with a biodetention basin just on the east side of that. So this addresses two of the comments that Black Horse Farms had about our project, about students or faculty and staff, even, you know, me coming across the berm and just matriculating our way across North Torrey Pines. And, you know, as you know, it's hard to find a silver bullet to address each and every individual issue. So we went after them as best we could, item by item, and then we maintained communication throughout design and then throughout construction, because sometimes we wouldn't know what an impact would be until we faced it. I'll give you an example, and that is move in. There were all sorts of Lyft and Uber cars that were just stopping there at the entrance of Black Horse and stopping along North Torrey Pines in different places. And so we leveraged the strength of our project team to help campus PD and the city with signage and actually enforcement of, you know, these, I don't want to say they're micro impacts, but impacts that are, you know, that were, depending on the time of year or the time of construction, that were there to hit. And I wish, Chuck, that I could tell you exactly what's going on with Theater District. I know that they've run into, that project has run into probably more pushback than we have, than we had in our time, because there's an LRDP transition that happened between our project and there. And I think it just, but I know that we're up at Regents today. And so if there's a voice that's been put to that pushback, we'll probably hear it today at this afternoon at Regents. I hope that answer your question, Chuck? Sorry.
Yes, thank you. Susan, there was one question on the chat about the grass, the surprise of the grass. Can Matt answer anything about that?
Yes, please, go ahead.
I guess the question would be, why do we have grass? Well, 100% of the water that we use is recycled water. That helps to address it. But yeah, we had gotten to a point on campus where we were reducing grass, actual, you know, planted grass. And there are moments where we had fields that were faux grass. AstroTurf is the only word I could think of, but that's not the right term for it. But during the design process, our stakeholders really pressed for and wanted to have actual turf as part of this project. And there's no other way to say it, other than we responded to our stakeholders' requests, and we collaborated with both FM and HDH, who are going to have to maintain it, and we landed on a yes there.
Great. Next question from Nancy Groves.
Yeah, I just wanted to go back and thank you, Matt. This has been absolutely great. I wanted to go back to something Faye brought up, and you just discussed a little bit about the new theater district building. So I actually spoke at the Regents meeting this morning. I've been on Zoom all day. And there were several students who also spoke in support of the new future theater district buildings. And the person who spoke against it was the head of the La Jolla Shores Association. I will point out that I'm an elected member of University City Planning Group, which the city has planning groups all over that they consult. The La Jolla Shores Association is not a planning group. That is a separate, just a little association. And they are threatening to sue the university, which seems kind of strange. But I did go to some of their meetings just to hear what their objections were. They objected to having a tall building. Yeah, well, there are other tall buildings on campus, so I kind of don't get that. And I will point out, back to what Faye said, is that there will be, in this area, in the new theater district area, there will be a restaurant and so forth that will actually stay open all the time, unlike the one that was there, that will be for theater goers to enjoy before or after the theater, and there will be parking for La Jolla Shores. All the parking down there is going to be underground also. So I really applaud the fact of putting all this parking underground and still maintain that they've done this 20 years ago. Things would have been a lot better on campus. There used to be a joke that, oh, school must be starting. They're now starting to pave all the parking lots this week, the week before school starts. I knew Matthew would get a laugh out of that one.
Right.
And the other thing I wanted to point out is something that University City Planning Group has been working with the university on, is that they are actually going to put in something additional they were not required to do, which is they're going to put in adaptive traffic signals all along North Torrey Pines Road. And this will
yeah, we're doing that. Yeah.
So and in this, I mean, I didn't say La Jolla, the main road that goes into La Jolla,
North Torrey
that goes into Genesee. Well, the one that goes into Genesee will also be adapted and hook up to the North Torrey Pines adaptive traffic signals. So this should reduce a lot of the standing traffic. It will, each traffic signal talks to the next one and tries to get the traffic moving through. So I think that was an expert, and we talked about it a lot at the planning committee and at the planning group. And I think the university responded wonderfully with coming up with more ideas than they absolutely had to do to meet. And I also want to applaud the fact that it's LEED Platinum. I don't think we've seen a single building come before the planning group that wasn't LEED Silver, which is much lower. So that's wonderful that it's LEED Platinum. I didn't know that. Thank you very much.
Gosh, Nancy, thanks so much for your kind words and for your support. Sir, this is great.
Okay,
anytime you want to follow on, I'm happy to tour.
I don't see any other questions. I'm putting it out to members. Anybody else who would like to ask a question before we thank our speaker and let him go? Going once, going twice. All right, looks like we've exhausted everyone's questions. Mathew, you have gone above and beyond the call of duty here. You've been absolutely wonderful, a font of information. It has been so interesting. I'm going to be interested to go back and watch it again because half the time I spent watching the participant list for questions.
I can do a last question.
Please.
Sue and Matt. Just on this theme of the university cooperating with our near neighbors, and this is relevant because of a related issue that Nancy Groves, who lives not just a couple blocks from me, is aware of in a different context in University City. And that is, as density increases, the need for firehouses closer to potential fires comes up. And I thought it was very promising that there would be cooperation between the university, which has some land, and the emergency services, which could build buildings. Is there any news on the proposal for a fire station at the northwest corner of the campus somewhere?
Yeah. So
Nancy raised her hand. She may have an answer.
Yeah.
Nancy, go ahead.
Well, okay.
I
Actually,
delegate my.
we just went through a whole thing on this, that firehouse. Well, we already built Firehouse 50 over on Nobel, but the one on campus is going to be at the corner of Genesee and North Torrey Pines. The space has already been allocated. The university's donated the land. They worked with the city. The city is going to actually build the fire station and maintain it. So it's already there. We actually just finished looking at Tuesday night's planning group meeting. We looked at they've just laid out spaces. They haven't got the architects. They have 4 different companies bidding on it. But that has been something I have been bird dogging ever since I came to the university. I kept saying, well, they're going to build the fire station after we have a gigantic problem. But on the planning group, that was one of the first things I went for, is we need a fire station on campus.
Yeah, so it's definitely moving. The Nobel is nice, but it's, you know, again, it's on the other side of a lot of traffic.
Right.
Just like our local problem on Governor, which I'm glad we're able to keep. We almost lost that.
Yeah, right. Now that too. But but the fire station on Nobel will be an asset to the other one that has tall ladder tracks. I don't know what you call that. Trucks with the very tall ladders, because you would need those where there's high rises. In all of North UC, there's lots of high rises and more building. Anyway, the fire station is already in progress. It is already sent. The city's already done a lot of the work on it. They have four people bidding on it, or not bidding, but design to compete for the design. And that's where it is, but it's going pretty fast. And you will notice that once we got going on Fire Station 50, it was built quickly. And we actually made it fit better sustainably into the land area by walking the space with the designers. So we hope this will be looking good too. It's going to take out 2 of the, I think there's 6 or 8 tennis courts up there now. It'll take out just 2 of the tennis courts, the northernmost 2 tennis courts, but it'll be right around, it's sort of across from what we think of as Torrey Pines South. Anyway, that's all. But it is in progress already.
All right, and with that, I will say a really big thank you to Mathew Smith for this absolutely fabulous presentation. If everybody wants to unmute themselves and applaud, we thank you very, very much.
Good job. Yay. Yay. Thank you.
All right, thank you so much, Mathew, for this tour, and thank you, Nancy, for having organized it. All right, have a wonderful afternoon, and everybody remember to sign on for the September 25th presentation on the new craft center. Bye-bye.
What time? What time?
12 o'clock.
You have to sign up for it. Make sure you sign up for it.
Will you sign me up for it?
Yeah, we can do that for you, Marcy.
Thank you.
No problem. Have a great day.
You too. Here you are.